WXXI's live forum is made possible with support from the Greater Rochester Health Foundation, working to pursue and invest in solutions that build a healthier region where all people can thrive.
Good evening, I'm Evan Dawson. Thanks for joining us for tonight's WXXI Live Forum, Restarting the Economy. We're joined by community leaders and local business owners discussing the state of reopening the Rochester and Finger Lakes region and what that means for you. We've been assembling our questions and yours all week long for our guests who are joining me from the WXXI studios and via Skype. And we want to emphasize, they are physically distanced from me, from our crew, and from one another. And we'd like to assure everyone in the audience that our team here is wearing masks and gloves and taking every precaution to make sure we and the panelists are safe. So let's get to it. I'd like to welcome our guests now. Bob Duffy is the Finger Lakes Reopening Advisor to Governor Cuomo and the President and CEO of the Greater Rochester Chamber of Commerce. Janine Cachette is the proprietor of Avino Restaurant. Willie J. Lightfoot, President of the United Professional Barbers and Cosmetologists Association and Vice President of Rochester City Council. Adam Bello is the Monroe County Executive. And joining us via Skype, Dr. Michael Mendoza, Monroe County Public Health Commissioner. And just a reminder that you can submit your questions for the experts this hour by emailing forum@wxxi.org. You can also tag WXXI News on Facebook and Twitter. We'll get to as many as we can later in the hour. But first, I'll turn to each of our guests, and I'd like to start with you, Bob Duffy. We are nearly a week into phase one of the reopening process in this region. How do you think things are going?
Thank you, Evan. I think things are going great. I think we've opened up both construction, manufacturing, and retail. People are following the guidelines. It might not be everything that everybody's looking for, but I think we're off to a great start. I'm proud of the fact the governor really announced the Finger Lakes region first to reopen. And just the mere fact that people are following those guidelines makes it easier, because the point of phase one is to open up businesses and then test and measure the data for the public health data, which I'm sure Dr. Mendoza will talk about. And if we can keep those numbers going down, that's when phase two, phase three, and phase four continue. But I know everybody's anxious. We are as well. We provide the governor's team with data every day, plans, suggestions, issues. I am not a decision maker. My job is to advise, to get information to the governor and his team, and I'm very proud of the work they've done so far.
County Executive Bello, you have been consistent in your messaging about the need to mask up and to physically distance in public, especially as we reopen more and more businesses getting ready to do that. Do you feel like we're behaving as we need to make sure this goes the way we want?
Yeah, I think by and large we are. And I want to thank the community and thank the public for their participation and for taking this seriously. I don't think it's just a coincidence or an accident that the Finger Lakes region was the first region to announce their opening. It was one of the few that started to do so, because we have been taking it seriously. I think when you go out in the community, I know there's some frustration when you see people not wearing masks, and but most people really are. And I think most people are taking this seriously to stay 6 feet apart. And the proof of that is in the numbers. The fact that we have been able to flatten that curve. We did not overwhelm the hospital system as we once feared when we were at the beginning of this. Our doubling time slowed down very quickly, and folks have done that. And there's been, make no mistake, an incredible amount of sacrifice in our community over the last 2 months to make that happen and to flatten that curve. And so now I think is the right time to start going through those phases. And I think because we have been demonstrating that we can do that and do that safely.
Dr. Mendoza, let's make sure viewers and listeners understand one of the key metrics for staying and kind of getting to where we need to be. We see hospitalization numbers. We need to make sure the hospitals don't get overwhelmed and don't get beyond a point where capacity is a problem. Now, we know that some numbers have been going up, but I know there's some context that we need to understand. What's going on there, and could it jeopardize reopening?
Well, make no mistake, when we were looking at the numbers about a week ago, we noticed the hospitalization number going up pretty steadily, and it has gone up about 32% in the last week. And on the face of it, that's concerning, because that means that we have a little bit less capacity potentially, and it could have meant that we had signs that potentially we were entering a surge. But when you dig into the data, when you look at what's going on, it turns out that a number of those new hospitalizations represent people who live in nursing homes. And they are, by and large, all doing very well. When you look at the numbers, they're all on the regular floor. They're not in the intensive care unit. They're not on ventilators. And they're doing relatively well. The challenge now is that there is a new regulation in place from the governor's executive order that now requires that you have to have a negative COVID test before you can return to your nursing home. And there is some good sense behind that, because we certainly don't want to reintroduce COVID into a nursing home, because we know that's a very vulnerable population to begin with. But at the same time, this is a change. And these are individuals who used to go home earlier or used to go back to their nursing home earlier, and that are now staying in the hospital. So the good news is that the ventilator number has gone down. Overall, we have a good explanation for all the new cases. And so, in spite of the numbers that may look concerning at first, I think overall our community is doing much better than it was even a week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Dr. Mendoza, it feels like the lights are kind of coming on a little bit more. We're starting to roll out more tracing. I don't know how far along that is, but I would assume that's also going to illuminate some more of where the cases are, even if they're asymptomatic cases.
Indeed. And now that we have more capacity to do testing, we are testing people that we were not able to test before. And so when you look at the numbers that seem to suggest that there are more people who are younger getting sick, it really just means that we're testing them now, and we're able to confirm that they do and in fact have COVID-19. In the past, we had presumed it because they were household contacts of people who are positive, but now we're able to confirm it, and in the end, that's a good thing.
And just to reemphasize that point, it's so important because parents especially, you see, younger people, teenagers, part of these daily test numbers, and the county is very transparent with this. It largely means that the tracing means a parent might have been infected. They're testing the kids. They may test positive even if they didn't show symptoms. It doesn't mean that we're seeing a wave of all of a sudden kids really sick. Doesn't mean kids can't get sick, but Dr. Mendoza, we're not seeing a wave of kids getting sick right now. Fair?
No, we don't see any evidence of that. We're testing more, and we anticipate seeing more cases.
Bob, we now know that barbershops, hair salons, they're going to be part of Phase 2. We're going to talk to Willie Lightfoot in a moment about that. Restaurants listed in Phase 3. We're going to talk to Janine Cachette about that. How is the state determining which industries go in which phases? And do you think we are closer to seeing a complete list? Or maybe we're really there to know if you work in this industry, you're going to be in 2, or you're going to be in 3, or you're going to be in 4?
It's a great question. I think these metrics are looked at every day and analyzed. The governor announced about the hair salons and barbershops opening up in Phase 2. And I think, first of all, the enormity of these businesses and the economic impact is important, and the importance to people having these services. I think what they are doing every day is looking at the analytics, the data. They look at the hospitalization data, which Dr. Mendoza mentioned. But the more we can open safely, and the more people can really reinforce and practice the guidelines that we're all reinforcing tonight, the faster we will open. And the governor has a prerogative to make other adjustments along the way with what he opens. We're looking at a number of things, from some of the restaurant opportunities coming up. There's been some great plans that we have received, that we have forwarded, some very thoughtful, safe plans that owners are coming up with. And the pace is going to depend on the outcomes and the metrics, because it is all about the public health metrics. And as these numbers keep going down, there's more opportunity for us to keep expanding. Now, just one point, if the numbers go up, and part of this whole control room concept is, myself and the county executive and Dr. Mendoza are on that, Vinny Esposito, leaders from all the surrounding counties. Our job would then be to try and recommend decisions to lower those numbers. We want to open up and keep opening up.
Yeah, and so I know that you're a liaison of sorts. I mean, it's not your final call. It's the governor. You're consulting, as you mentioned, Vinny Esposito and many others, consulting as well. I want to ask you, and I don't know if you can necessarily answer every question tonight, but here's 2 questions we're getting almost more than anything else here. Interestingly enough, listeners, viewers like Grace, who just got in touch with us, are asking, Phase 2, you've got barbershops and salons. Does that mean massage therapists, estheticians, nail technicians? Are they on there? Do you know?
That question has not been answered yet.
Okay.
It's a very good question, and probably the subject of about 200 emails in the last few days. But we're forwarding those. Those are metrics and jobs that will probably come up, and we'll probably know more maybe by mid to late next week. All I know now is hair salons and the barbershops. But in terms of nails, waxing, all the other services, massage, I think acupuncture, there are some adjustments being made right now depending where your business is located. But that forwardnewyork.gov site is a location of constant re-upping, which the governor's team are doing, of changes almost every day to what the guidelines are and what can be reopening next.
All right, tell me the website again.
It's newyorkforward.gov. or maybe forwardnewyork.gov, but
We'll
it's,
get
hit one or the other, you'll get there.
The other common question, especially as we move into Memorial Day weekend, and we have been waiting so long for good weather, and we got it. 5 minutes ago, people are sending me pictures from Fairport. There's a ton of people out on the canal. I understand why. They're itching to be outside. You look at pictures. Some are wearing masks, some are not. There's outdoor, sort of deck concerts happening. People are asking, we're looking at businesses in the phases, but are we also going to be at a point where, okay, now we're at a point where we can say you can gather in backyard settings with your neighbors? I mean, is the state looking at that, or are you mostly looking at businesses, Bob?
No, the governor's been very clear about gatherings of no more than 10 right now, socially distanced, wearing masks. That is important. And a big fear is if people come together, and we get it. We get the frustration that they're going through being cooped up in their homes. But if we drive those numbers up, it's just going to slow the process down. I walk almost every night. My wife and I go out for walks. The goal is if you cannot be 6 feet apart, you wear a mask. Now, that is the guidelines we're going by. If you can be, if you're distanced, fine. But out in public, that 6 foot distance is key. And to be safe, I might throw a couple extra feet on just to be extra safe.
Sure. I got this thing around my neck everywhere I go. When I'm out running and walking, because it can pop on in a heartbeat. I hear you. By the way, it's forward.ny.gov, the wonderful production team tells me. Forward.ny.gov. And one more for you, Bob, before I turn to some of your colleagues here. Is there an earliest that we can envision a phase 2 start? We're 6 days into phase 1. What is the earliest phase 2 can happen?
Well, phase 1 began 12:01 a.m. On May 15th. The governor had said in between phases, at least a 2-week period. I know the governor well, have worked with the governor. Key 2 words, at least. He'll look at that. He is not committing to an exact date. People are saying, I'm going to open up on June 1st. I would just wait. That direction will come. But he wants to give that 2-week period.
Sure.
I think Dr. Mendoza would agree. It gives you time to test and measure what is the impact as you reopen these businesses. And I just was close. The one fear the governor has is if you open too soon, and he wants to open up. I mean, he could be the most popular person in the world opening everything next week. But he would not be responsible. He's got to do this in a way that really protects public safety and protects public health. And I will tell you this, for every person that is called wanting a business open, we have somebody calling or emailing saying, please don't do it. I'm afraid to go back. So we have to manage the public health metrics, but also the issue of fear that people have.
Sure. County Executive Bello, we know a lot of festivals have already been canceled this year, but people are moving outside with this warmer weather. Mm-hmm. Do you foresee the county using green spaces, parks, golf courses, anything else like that for modified public events? What do you foresee there?
Well, not really large gatherings, because like Bob Duffy just pointed out, right now we're limited to having gatherings of 10 people or more, or I'm sorry, 10 people or less. But we can still use those outdoor spaces, and I would encourage you to do so. The weather is getting very nice. It's beautiful outside. I know we've been safe at home for a long time, for 2 months. So it's time to go outside and enjoy some fresh air. But there's a way to do it safely. So we've started, all of our county parks have been open throughout this, and I've been on your program, and we've talked about why I think the benefits of doing that. We put a lot of signage and educational material at the parks. We've even demonstrated with ground markings what 6 feet looks like, so that you can have that judgment, and you can sort of see what it looks like to be 6 feet away from someone else. We've done a lot of community masking events over the last week or so because of the funding that we got from our federal partners, Congressman Morelli, Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand. We've been able to purchase millions of masks to distribute so that everyone has access to wear masks while they're out and about. And I think we've taken a responsible approach. But we have started opening other things that were closed. So the dog parks are back open again. But we do have some rules and guidelines. Our human friends need to wear masks and stay 6 feet apart. The golf courses have been opened again. But again, it's under modified rules so that you keep a distance from each other. Golf carts are now allowed at there. And so we've had that phased in approach so that we can still do it in a safe way, but encourage people to be outside and enjoy the fresh air.
Early on, there were those questions about golf courses, about parks, about dog parks, and most of them we've seen over the last few weeks and the last couple of months, excuse me, you've slowly moved into less restrictive. Are you pretty comfortable with where that is now? Do you see any of that changing?
I am. I'm very comfortable where that is. And we're even starting to think about how we can open up our beaches. We're in the process of hiring lifeguards and putting in processes and guidelines in place. So hopefully later in June, when the weather really becomes nice, we can open that up again as well. And I think the approach is right. You do it in phases so that you can learn from any mistakes that happen. You give the public health professionals enough time to see what the impact of opening those and going through that opening has on the public health at large, and because at the same, in some ways, Evan, when you look at this, you're building the plane as you're flying it. We've never shut the economy down like this. We've never shut parks down like we've never done this before, and then needed to phase in a reopening to do it safely. And if you look at what's happened around the country and around the world, there are communities now that they thought they had flattened that curve and kept it low, and now they're seeing spikes and things are shutting down again. I just saw a news story yesterday about a town or a city in Germany that they thought they really had crushed this, and now they had to shut the economy right back down. We want to avoid that, and so you have to do it in a safe way. So I'm comfortable where we are, but we're going to continue then as we move through these phases to look at what other things we can begin to open safely. And I understand some people are going to want us to move faster or slower than we are, but we're really going to be guided by science and public health. And I think that's why that 2-week phase-in approach that Bob Duffy just spoke about and what the governor talked about as a minimum time period is absolutely right, because you need to have that time to see what the effect was of public health before you move forward to that next step.
And Dr. Mendoza, let me turn to you, because sometimes we talk about reopening dates as if that's the date that automatically Dr. Mendoza or Bob Duffy or Governor Cuomo or Adam Bella will be able to say it is now magically safe to go to the beach or to go to a restaurant, et cetera. We're going to focus on these dates for a reason. I mean, industries are wondering about them, but I know you want to stress to the audience that a lot of this is still really up to us.
It really is. And, one of the, challenges is that the metric that we care the most about is the one that we can't measure. The extent to which we adhere to physical distancing, the extent to which we do a good job washing our hands and wearing our masks, there's no good measure for that, except to see that the numbers continue to stay where they are or get better. And the reality is that by the nature of this illness, it takes 2 weeks for us to see the impact of any change that we make. And so at minimum, we'll see the impact of reopening in phase 1 next Friday. And, from my standpoint, I'd like to see a little bit more time in between the phases, but I understand that we need to keep moving forward. So my job is to do everything I can to look at the numbers and project as best as we can, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that we're safe. But make no mistake, our job in public health is to understand the science and, really, give the policymakers a sense of what's really going on out there.
Dr. Mendoza, there's understandable angst about the economy, and there's also occasional viral moments about people not wanting to wear masks. I think we've got to be careful in the media, probably me included, about over-amplifying them, because I think most people do get it. But for those who are still on the fence about this, we're going to be living with this pandemic probably for the rest of this year, maybe into next year. Who knows what the timeline is? What is the message for those who want to reopen but maybe don't want to distance or wear masks?
Well, quite frankly, we hold the future in our hands. And if we can find a way to make this change, and it is a change, I think in the long run we'll be better off. Because as we look to engaging in those even riskier behaviors, opening up bars and restaurants and large gatherings and schools, we've got to be able to prove to ourselves that we can keep the numbers where they ought to be, so that we can be sure that as we open the next phase, that we're not putting our most vulnerable people in our community at risk. And those are the people in nursing homes. Those are our grandparents and our older relatives and so forth. We owe it to them to take the precautions that we can. And at the end of the day, we really do hold the future in our own hands. And to the extent that we can engage in these changes, I think that's ultimately what's going to prove successful for us all across the community.
I want to turn now to Willie Lightfoot, who is not only the president of Rochester City Council, but a man who knows something about making people look good. Barbershops are listed in phase 2 of this process, but I know, Willie, you've expressed some concerns about making sure that whenever that is, you can reopen with the safety of your barbers and your customers. I know you've even reached out to Governor Cuomo directly in recent weeks. What have been some of your concerns there?
Well, first of all, Evan, I'll mess with you a little bit. Vice President, not President, you're trying to get me in trouble.
I will promote
Gave me a promotion, yeah. You're absolutely right, sir. First of all, thank you for being on the show. We have, when this happened on March 21st, when they actually closed the barbershop salons and the appearance enhancement industry, was probably one of the most difficult days of my life. Prior to then, I had wrote a letter to the governor asking him for some guidance on the appearance enhancement industry, because I was receiving quite a bit of calls from people in the appearance enhancement industry feeling very unsafe because at that point we had not shut down. And it was, even myself with my own shop, I was reluctant to shut down because I had people who had been working with me for over 15 years, and I didn't know what their fate would be. And so that was a very hard decision to make. And so I was reaching out for guidance from the governor, and I also wanted to know about what would the financial relief look like for the appearance enhancement industry, because I know historically we have not been considered for unemployment because of being independent contractors or independent workers. So I can include that in the letter as well, asking for guidance as to how would the relief look like for the appearance enhancement industry. So I was so happy, number one, to hear that the federal government was doing a unemployment almost on steroids, if you will, that would include independent workers and appearance enhancement industry professionals. So that was exciting. And the fact that the governor also made a decision to give us guidance to shut us down on March 21st, even though it was a sad moment, it was also a relief, because I knew at that point in time that we had to save lives. And being 20 years on the fire department and being chair of public safety, life safety is my number one concern.
And so now, as you look forward here, what's going to have to be in place before you feel like, even if we get the green light in phase 2,
Sure.
yes, we're going to reopen, we're going to do this?
Well, I would tell you this. First of all, people in the appearance enhancement industry, especially barbers and salons who have been listed specifically, are very excited about reopening, but at the same time, there is some fear and some nervousness about it. I would tell, we have to educate ourselves, number one. And there are companies, the PBA, the Professional Beauty Association, as well as the Barberside, which is a national recognized sanitation manufacturing company. They have been providing many webinars to this industry professionals to tell you how that you can retool or repurpose different things within your shop, as well as you have to look at how we're going to have to pivot and restructure how we do business. You're not going to have the normal barbershop experience and salon experience that you're used to having. Most of the time you go into a shop, you can sit there for hours, have conversations, play checkers, play cards. Those things are not going to happen. You're going to see that things that are non-essential items are going to be taken out of the shops, waiting chairs, tables, newspapers, coffee stations, all of those things you'll see probably come out of the facilities. People will have to probably wait in their car. They're going to have to go by appointment only. You're going to have one person per chair. You're going to have to distance each chairs apart, at least 6 feet apart. You're going to have to wear masks. Customers may have to wear masks. Gloves may be included, I'm not sure. But these are things that we're going to have to restructure how we conduct our services.
Now, you are going to be in a position where employees also have to understand this. Not just you as the owner and not just the customers understanding what the rules are. You got to train people. And then you've got to figure out if this is a model that's going to be sustainable at least for, 6 months, a year, 18 months. Are you feeling right now, Willie, that if you do it this way, appointment only, maybe less of the non-essential stuff, a lot of what makes it feel like community probably goes away for a while, but can you stay in business doing it this way?
Well, I think myself personally, I think we'll be able to stay in business. I think it's going to be difficult, especially depending on your location. For instance, I'm in a very challenged neighborhood. So, pricing was already an issue for me. So for this, technically, we would have to raise our prices because we may be purchasing more safety PPE in order to be able to provide the social and physical distancing that is necessary to be able to provide a safe experience for our customers. And that may be very problematic for those who are in very challenged neighborhoods. But I think overall, I heard you say earlier that people they're going to be wanting to see that the businesses that they're going into are paying attention to keep them safe.
Yeah.
So I think people may have that first experience. They'll go in, they'll look around, and they may do it that one time, but they may not come back. So I would implore and encourage individuals, especially in the appearance enhancement industry, to there's a lot of educational material out there. We spent the UPBCA, we spent a whole month doing financial literacy classes for individuals, just trying to help them get themselves financially stable. And then just this Monday, we had the county executive, the mayor, on a conversation with the appearance enhancement industries, talking about this same conversation about what does reopening look like, answering people's questions, their concerns. And there are a lot of questions and concerns. And you look, on the internet, man, you see people with shower curtains between chairs and, full mask on. I mean, just a lot of weird things that are going on. But we're going to have to figure out, we're looking, and we think the governor's doing an amazing job. We think the county executive is doing an amazing job. Bob and the mayor is doing an amazing job. That's probably why we're number one of opening up. And so we're depending on their leadership, their guidance, to tell us how to do this safely.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. We're going to see creative solutions as businesses do this in different ways here. And Dr. Mendoza, let me ask you, I mean, we know getting tested for the virus and getting a negative result is not a guarantee of anything in the future. It's an indication of where you are at that moment. But I think if I were getting a haircut, if I actually were still growing a whole lot of hair, and I needed a haircut, and there was a barber who had never been tested, and then there was a barber down the street who had just tested negative, I think I might be more comfortable going to the barber who had been able to get tested. Now, that's a hard ask because we're already testing a lot of people vis-a-vis other communities and other states, but can we see, as more of the workforce goes back to work, can we see even more testing happen?
Well, I think we're going to have to, because at the end of the day, we don't truly know the prevalence of COVID-19 infection or exposure in our community. Right now we know that it's relatively low. Our best estimate is that less than 5% of our community has been exposed and potentially is now immune to COVID-19, which leaves the vast 95% of the rest of us still susceptible. And so the only way we're going to get through that uncertainty is either to test more or to have a vaccine. And at this point, really, it's a race between how quickly we can get the vaccine or a good treatment out there and how quickly we can develop capacity to obtain either the diagnostic test that we've had for some months now or the antibody test, which will be coming in the coming month, potentially even sooner than that. But as we learn more about the way we interpret the results of this antibody test, we will have a much better sense of how protected or not we are as a community.
I got my first test last Saturday. It was such a professional process at MCC. I'm technically listed as an essential worker, and I know that's tough because a lot more people want to get tested than have been able to, but that's starting to change. By the way, the test was easy. There was way too much hype about the test. It was a little bit of a tickle. It was no problem. But when it now comes to tracing, a lot of talk about that. Is this part, Dr. Mendoza, is this part of playing offense that allows us to kind of keep reopening and not sort of in a shell?
Yes, contact tracing is critical. There are two phases to contact tracing here in the health department. When we learn of somebody who's positive, we do an investigation going back in time, trying to figure out how or where they might have contracted the infection. And then we go forward in time to try to figure out if there's anybody who might potentially be at risk going forward who doesn't even know about it. And so, for better or worse, this is not our first rodeo anymore. We went through a good 2.5 months of this. We've got some experience now with this illness, with its presentation, with talking to people about it. And at this point, it's game time for us. We're going to do the best we can to stay ahead of this, and that means that my team's got to be at the ready. And so we're preparing, and we're busy. That's for sure.
Let me turn to Janine Couchette, who is a restaurant proprietor. She's part of Phase 3 of reopening. But I know for a long time, you and a lot of your colleagues in the restaurant industry, Janine, by the way, the proprietor of Avino in Brighton on Monroe Avenue, you've been opening and for takeout and sort of limited service. That is a limited model of what you've been able to do. How limited? What percentage of your regular business have you been able to sustain doing it this way?
It's about 25% of our normal sales. We also do a lot of catering and work with an event space downtown called the Wilder Room, and we've lost all of our weddings, corporate events, graduation parties, so that's a big chunk of our business as well. But as far as actual numbers, we're doing about 25% of what we would normally do this time of year.
Sure, and Phase 3 will likely place limitations, understandably so, on indoor seating. Many restaurant owners have said that reducing indoor capacity could make it really difficult to break even. Margins tend to be pretty thin for restaurants to begin with. How challenging would that be for Avino?
Absolutely. If we were able to open at 25% capacity or 50% capacity, it wouldn't be enough. Our fixed costs, our rent is not 50%, our G&E, insurance, they're not 50%. There's just no possible way. We've run the numbers backwards and forwards, even if we raised our prices. And just to be able to take care of our staff and their health insurance, there's just no way we could survive without other revenue streams, which is what we're trying to get creative with these days.
Yeah, so we're hearing more establishment discuss expanded outdoor seating. What can you do there? What are you planning to do there?
So I would like to actually talk to some of the officials that are with us today. We are planning on putting a tent on the side of our building to not raise the capacity of our dining room, but make it the same. So basically, we have 16 tables, and if we go down to 50% capacity, we would have 8 tables, which I just said is not sustainable or a viable model. So we want to be able to add 8 tables outside, and with Rochester weather, we can't just do that without some sort of temporary structure. So we have gotten a loan and have all the resources that we need. We have our landlords okay to put a tent outside, and the town of Brighton is being incredibly difficult about it. So we're asking for an executive order, whether it's from the county or the state, to temporarily loosen the restrictions on awnings, tents, and outdoor membranes, so we don't have to go through months and months of board meetings between planning and zoning and ARB. And I do have just a basic kind of permit application for the fire marshal, and I do think that we should have to apply for something to show safety regulations. Obviously, public safety is our number one priority, and our staff safety. But if the towns and the cities and the local municipalities are being difficult with this, then we're not going to make it.
Okay, and so I'll first turn this over to Bob Duffy, because when he was lieutenant governor, he worked, he fielded a lot of calls from business owners who occasionally had some red tape issues and otherwise. Is this a realistic issue that you think can be overcome for a business like this, Bob? And by the way, let me also say, this is not sort of an esoteric single question. Janine Cachette represents an industry where there's going to be a lot of creativity. There's going to be moving more tables outside. There's going to be questions about if you can serve alcohol in sort of side yards and whatnot. So there's going to be a lot of these kinds of questions. Bob, what would you say to Janine?
I think Janine hit the nail on the head. I think she's right on target. She's done her numbers. I think one thing we have to do is look at how can we help and support these businesses as they reemerge. And certainly there are regulatory issues. I think one example could be state liquor authority rules. Can they relax some of those for outdoor dining? As Janine mentioned, having a restaurant have some extra capacity outside. New York City restaurants, I've read a lot, if they can't get a higher capacity, they go out of business. So the strain they've been under for the last 2+ months, any way that we could look for some relief. And I listened to Janine talk and also Willie. A side effect of this is going to be as these businesses come back and start to reopen, deal with all the issues they've dealt with already, they may have to raise prices. It's a tough economic time for everybody. So I think we have to look at the holistic area here. And I can't say what's going to happen, but I think the governor has done extraordinary things in the past with the wine, craft brew industry, easing regulations, really growing that in Finger Lakes. I think these times may cause for some drastic actions, and we're certainly going to bring all the suggestions, Janine's and others, to the forefront, have them look at those, but I think it's a very legitimate issue to raise.
How quickly, Bob, can they get answers? Because we know phase 3 isn't happening tomorrow, but it could happen perhaps in June, depending on the pace of how things are going. How fast can the state coordinate answers? Because every individual business may have a slightly different challenge.
All right, that's a great point. I can't in any way guess what date, but I can tell you that there are probably people in Albany right now that hate getting emails and packages because we send everything. And really some great suggestions, plans coming up, and they're doing a terrific job down there in terms of trying to go through all this. But I do think they're trying to do things methodically, trying to make decisions. Keep in mind, it's a big state, so what they do in upstate, downstate will want as well. But what I'm hearing from business owners has not been drastic changes, but common sense help and adjustments to help them get back. And maybe you look at things on a temporary basis, maybe a year at a time, and then, like we're doing with the public health, go back, test, and measure. If a business can come back to where they were before, get back to full capacity, then maybe it can be other adjustments. But I do think we have to not only support these businesses that have been ravaged for the last couple of months, many have not, but restaurants, salons, barbershops, small retail, they've been really severely impacted. So trying to support them. And we're trying to, without trying to raise expectations, try to get all the facts and data, get those in the hands of the right people, and really, I'm pretty confident, the governor understands this stuff. He's hearing it from across the state, that whatever the outcomes will be, I think there'll be some very good decisions made going forward.
All right, Janine, for now, is that what you want to hear?
Yeah, absolutely. Financial help is one portion of helping restaurants and hair salons, but I think there's other things the government can also do that to help support us that aren't directly giving us money, and easing these restrictions, working with the state liquor authority on keeping us able to do takeout with cocktails and wine for the next year. These all little extra revenue streams will help us stay alive.
And Janine, I know the small business owners have looked to the federal government, the SBA, for PPP, payroll protection funds. Is that an avenue you've gone, and has it helped you?
We did get the PPP loan for about half of what we could qualify for, because a lot of our staff didn't want to come back to work. Getting the extra $600 a week on unemployment, they were making more or essentially the same to stay home. So it caused a lot of problems for us when we were applying. There wasn't a ton of guidance at that time. Now there's more. So if we applied now, it would be a little bit different. So we took about half of it and hired half of our staff back. We have 3 more weeks of the PPP, and when that's out, if we can't open, then we lay everybody off again.
Willie Lightfoot, did you go in that direction?
The PPE doesn't really apply to my different styles of salons and barbershops. It depends on your style. If you work for commission, you have actually employees, then you may qualify. But my shop is more of a traditional shop where we do booth rental. So I didn't apply for the PPE. But I would also say that I've looked at some articles that said that there's some disparities in the PPE too. It appears that they're doing as information and data starting to come out, that it doesn't really seem that a lot of people of color have not had the same outcome with the PPE as others. So I didn't apply for it. It didn't really apply to my particular style of business and how I operate. But a lot of my barbers did apply for unemployment insurance, and we kind of had the same similar situation where a lot of them were making more, or if not the same as what they were making under this unemployment. But that ends on July 31st. We're very excited to get back in phase 2. So because this industry has been impacted, as well as others, tremendously. A lot of these individuals, this was their only income, and for them, they could not. This is the industry that you cannot practice physical and social distance. Yeah. Every other industry, you can practice some sort of physical and social distance. In the appearance enhancement industry, it's impossible to practice physical distancing.
To Willie's point, hundreds of billions of dollars from the federal government in payroll protection loans, and there's new data that has come out in the last couple of weeks. Not a whole lot has gone to black-owned businesses, to communities of color, to the point where Magic Johnson and Mark Cuban have both tried to put up their own money to support those kinds of businesses. But I think everyone agrees it shouldn't take individual philanthropists doing that. If you're just joining us, I'm Evan Dawson here at the WXXI studios with community leaders and local business owners as we discuss restarting the region's economy. And again, we want to emphasize we are all physically distanced from one another. Our crew is wearing masks and gloves and taking every precaution to make sure we and our panelists are safe. Our team has heard from business owners throughout Rochester about reopening, and some of them have submitted their concerns via video. You've heard from Willie Lightfoot just now, Phase 2 business, Janine Cachette. Her industry is Phase 3. Here's our first video question, and it's about Phase 4.
Hi, my name is Danielle Ramo, and I'm the owner of Rochester Brainery. We're a community classroom and event space located in Rochester's neighborhood of the arts. While we've been able to bring some of our classes online through Zoom, the event portion of our business, which truly sustains us, hasn't been operational since mid-March. I'm wondering, as a Phase 4 business offering business meetings, bridal showers, baby showers, small weddings, all indoors, what I can be doing to prepare my space, my employees, and my renters for a future reopening, whenever that may be. Thank you for your time.
Bob Duffy, this is such an important question because Danielle Ramo is a Phase 4 business, but Phase 4 owners are not waiting to figure out what they need to do. They want to know, what do I need to do to plan now? What's the message for her and for Phase 4 owners?
Well, first of all, I've been to Danielle's business in the past, and a couple of pieces of advice. First of all, the forwardnewyork.gov site has a template. And you can go by industry, some of the expectations for a plan. Every business should have a plan to reopen, which I think Danielle touched on. Those components at a minimum should have masking if you can't keep social distancing, the social distancing aspect, 6 feet apart, hand hygiene and disinfecting. There's other regulations that will come in depending on the industry. That's a great start to do. The next thing, here's a challenge, whether it is Danielle's place, whether it is a church service, a youth sports game, it's not the activity that is really impeding the opening. It is the gathering of people. When you get 10, 15, 20, 30, the more people. That's why the Buffalo Bills may play their first game without fans. That's why the NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, they're all on hold. The Olympics have been canceled. Festivals have been canceled. So I think right now, I think the governor's team and the state is grappling with how do you reopen these venues and how do you do it? He announced today summer school is over, maybe some online learning, and he's really holding back a decision on reopening schools in the fall. So I really can't give a definitive answer as to when, but to Danielle and anyone preparing, don't wait for your phase to come. Get your plan in place now to protect your employees and protect your customers. And go on that website, some great guidance on there, and have that plan in place. And I want to also add, the state is not going to inspect your plan before you open. But what will happen if you have a complaint, if an employee complains, gets sick, God forbid, a customer, somebody is hospitalized? I think we have to look at potential litigation down the road. You protect yourself by taking common sense steps to protect your employees and your customers. And there's many examples on there. There's great examples of plans. You can send an email to me at the Chamber of Commerce. We really have a lot of information to offer people. But that's what I would start doing. And now we're waiting. The governor will make those decisions on the phases, and we'll have very specific guidelines as they come.
And Bob Duffy talking about the governor's comments on schools today, no summer school, maybe some online summer. He hinted that he's got concerns about summer camps, has not made a decision yet, but he's concerned about some unknown questions related to Kawasaki disease in children. So the governor's still making some calls on that. Dr. Mendoza, anything you want to add to not just Danielle Ramo, but Phase 4 business owners who are trying to look ahead and be ready for whenever their chance comes?
Well, the real challenge here is that we're still dealing with a whole lot of uncertainty. As you mentioned with the summer camps, we would love to open the summer camps if we could find a way to do so safely. But, very recently we're learning about the pediatric multi-system inflammatory syndrome, which is really throwing a wrench into things because we just don't know yet what that is going to mean for our kids. And the last thing we want to do is put our kids in harm's way. But, Phase 3's got to come, before Phase 4. Phase 2's got to come before Phase 3. The reality is that we're going to learn a whole lot between now and Phase 4. We're going to learn a lot more about this virus. We're going to learn more about how it's transmitted. We will hopefully learn more about prevalence in the community and hopefully have more testing available. We've got to learn from the science, but we also have to learn from each other. I would encourage all of the businesses as part of every phase to collaborate with one another. I know that the school superintendents and their communities are already collaborating around what can they do when and if schools open in the fall. And they're starting now. They started 2 months ago, learning about those best practices, learning from the science, learning from other communities about what does and does not work are equally important. So, while it feels like we're waiting around, the reality is there's a whole lot of work to prepare because at the end of the day, we know that these large gatherings represent the highest risk. And the last thing we want to do is put all of ourselves in a position where we've got to go backwards, not forwards.
All right, let's turn now to our next video question.
Hello, my name is Nita, and I am the owner and designer for Mansowear, a custom clothing company located on Park Avenue. I'm very excited that we are going back to work and back to the new normal. But I am concerned about people, customers who may not follow safe practices such as wearing masks and who may come into the shop. Mansowear is very small. It's about 8 feet by 20 feet long. And so that is my concern as we go back. Thank you.
County Executive Bello, hard to think of a stronger advocate for wearing masks and face coverings in public than you. Nita is concerned about people in the shop not respecting that. I know you've had questions about whether to enforce or whether it's up to us. What would you say to a business owner like that who wants to get back to work, who's eager to do it, but worried about people behaving and the way they're behaving in the shop?
Well, I think that it's well within her rights to ask her customers and require her customers to wear masks before they're allowed inside the shop. I mean, let's remember what wearing masks is all about. Wearing masks is about not just protecting yourself. It's about protecting other people around you. It's it's part of your personal responsibility to make sure that you're doing your role to stop the spread, because you may be an asymptomatic carrier of the disease. And I think that wearing a mask in public is a small price to pay to be able to help us slow down the spread of this virus, so that we can then start to open up and go through these phases, so that Nita can open up her shop and Nita can be successful. And it protects her, it protects her customers, and it protects the individual. So I think it's perfectly within her rights to require her customers to wear those masks, and she should. We get a lot of questions about enforcement out in the community, and we have had, by and large, really good participation when it comes to wearing masks around Monroe County. There has been, we did the mask distribution event just last weekend, and before that, and handed out millions of masks. And you could get caught up in a Twitter bubble and some of the negativity out there, but when I saw so many people coming out to receive their masks and to wear masks and are eager to do so, it made me feel good about where we're going as a community, because there really is participation by the community in this. But the real thing is, it's not about the sacrifice you have to make just to wear the mask. It's really about protecting other people around you, and it's your responsibility as a good citizen to do that. And so I think we all should be wearing a mask, particularly when you can't be when you can't be outside of 6 feet, when you're going to be within 6 feet of other people. It's a responsible thing to do. And as Dr. Mendoza said earlier, how we go through these phases and how we're able to make sure that Nita is successful, to make sure that the Brainery can open, to make sure that all these different places can open and be successful, that power to do that is in our hands. The power to slow the spread of this virus and and make sure that we're as healthy as we can be as a community is up to us. It's up to us how we act when we're out in public. It's up to us how we take seriously our efforts to wear a mask, to do good sanitation techniques, how we stay outside 6 feet from each other. And that doesn't mean that you have to stop living your lives. I just remember, with Mother's Day that we recently had, there's, people say, well, why can't I visit Mom on Mother's Day? Well, of course you can. I visited my mom on Mother's Day. I visited my mother-in-law on Mother's Day. I just didn't give her a hug. We stayed more than 6 feet apart. We all wore masks, but we spent time together. And you can do that. You could do it the distance of your driveway. You can still be part of it. We are social beings. That's why I like the term physical distancing as opposed to social distancing, because we are social beings. We need to be around people. We need to interact with people. You just have to figure out ways to do it differently and to do it safely. And I think our community has responded, which is why we are going through that phase. But how quickly the barbershops open, how quickly restaurants open, and how quickly we get to that place where we can open up large venues, amusement parks, things like that, is entirely in our hands as a community, how quickly and safely we can go through those phases.
All right, here's our final video question of the night.
I'm Kevin McCann, owner of McCann's Local Meats in the South Wedge. Restaurants have had to alter their businesses greatly as a result of COVID-19, and we're taking numerous steps to ensure the safety of our guests when we can allow them back into our dining rooms in Phase 3. My question is, if there is a resurgence in infection rates, what plans on a state and local level are in place to address it, and how will that affect our businesses?
So, Bob Duffy, what Kevin McCann's really saying here, and I've texted with him a little bit tonight, is he just wants to make sure that, God forbid, if we go forward and then we have to go back, do we have a plan to make sure it is temporary and we are not kind of flying by the seat of our pants?
I think I could speak for the governor, the county executive, the mayor, and all of us. Once we open, we do not want to go back. That's why it's so important to follow the guidelines and adhere to those. The control room concept, which I mentioned myself, Vinny Esposito, the mayor, county executive, Dr. Mendoza, both hospital systems, the 8 surrounding counties, their leaders, We are charged with, if we have a spike, making recommendations to how to tamper that spike, lower it down. That may happen, and it could be a number of things we do. We do not want to close down. So I think it's, as the county exec said, having personal responsibility, really following these guidelines. They're not made up. They're not made up to restrict somebody's freedom. They're really there to preserve public health and safety and really protect all of us. So I think just following those, it is doubly difficult to open something up and close it down. If you look at around the world, there are countries that are seeing spikes. I think Dr. Mendoza mentioned earlier, and the virus is known to do this. You have it, you feel terrible, you feel a little better, then it comes back. And sometimes comes back even harder. We can't let our guard down during this. And I think what we are asking is challenging. It really is. It's difficult for businesses. We're getting there, but we need to keep this going. The best metaphor I could point to, played sports my whole life. I grew up in a family. If I didn't do well in school, if I didn't do certain jobs at the house, I could not play. I did those things so I can do what I want to do. We have to follow those same guidelines and principles so we can open up. We want every business to be reopened, back safely, earning money, driving the economy. We have to do it the right way.
Janine Kachette, I'm curious to know, from a restaurant perspective, if we get to phase 3 and then we go backwards and pull back again, how devastating would that be to your sector?
Oh, very devastating. That's why I don't think we should open until the metrics are where they need to be. And I don't want to do it too fast and we get right back to square one.
But we've got to get there and stay there, it sounds like, from your perspective.
Yeah.
Dr. Mendoza, is there essentially is the plan to go back to whatever the previous phase was and operate that way or reenact physical distancing more? I mean, is there a plan?
You know, I think it'd be great if there was a recipe for how to do this, but the reality is that we've never done this before. And so, you know, if I were to write the recipe, I would say we'd have to look at the data. Let's look and see. If we start to see, you know, things look a little concerning, let's dig in. Let's see if we can understand, are there patterns to what's leading to those concerns? And are there steps that we can take specifically to mitigate those specific concerns so that we don't have to go all the way back to phase 2? Is there a way that we can look at the more high-risk interactions and make some changes along the way so that we don't have to completely undo all the progress that we've made? We can modify a little bit, course correct a little bit, keep moving forward at the end of the day. But, you know, we don't want to have to go all the way back. You know, I made the analogy to someone earlier this week. This isn't like, you know, climbing a set of stairs. It's like going up a ramp. You know, it's gradual. Even though that the phases are numbered and there are days that we've got to get through, there really isn't anything magical about the day before phase 2 and the day after phase 2. We've got to keep the effort steady and slow and keep the pace going so that we don't slide backwards.
Let's see how many viewer questions we can get through in our last 5 minutes. We've got a long list of them. The first comes from Karen, who says the following: my organization's manufacturing area is reopening. We'll be taking employees' temperatures upon entry, I should say. I've heard people with 100-degree temperatures will be turned away. But then what? What are the next steps from a county perspective in terms of testing, tracking, and tracing? Dr. Mendoza, can you speak to that?
Well, you know, we know that this illness presents in a number of ways, and an elevated temperature is one of a number of those ways. You know, if somebody has that risk, you know, right now we want to be very, very careful. And if you've got any of those symptoms, we want you to go back to your home and call your primary care physician. Ask them to evaluate you, and hopefully it'll be okay. If they evaluate you and they say that you don't have any other signs of COVID-19, give you a clean bill of health for that day, and then you can move forward. But, you know, we want to use these steps to be cautious, you know, and realizing that the vast majority of people who have fever in this community will not have COVID-19. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that we want to find those that do and take every available precaution.
All right, Chris asked the following: when will churches reopen? Will there be restrictions on how many people can gather to worship? Bob Duffy, can you speak to that?
The governor's mentioned that this week. I think it was 2 days ago. Services inside can be 10 people or less. He's also making provisions for drive-in services outside in cars. He is putting together a group of faith community leaders from around the state to make other recommendations to him. But again, the door is open. He is starting. He's starting small. 10 people in a large cathedral might not be look like a lot, but he wants to start in that direction. And again, the drive-in type services in your car and a large outside facility, they're exploring it, looking at that. I think they've been approved already. So again, we're going down that road, but as Dr. Mendoza and the county exec, we've all said, We do these things, and then we measure the outcomes. It's all about the data that we have to keep on looking at, examining, and make those adjustments.
All right, Judy writes the following. I really miss the library. When will the Monroe County Library System open? Will libraries require visitors to wear masks? And if yes, how will that be enforced? County Executive Bello?
Sure. Well, the Central Library is open now, taking orders, pickup orders. You could drive up and pick up orders. And I know that the municipal libraries around the county are right now all in various stages of putting those plans together. So it can operate very much like a retail establishment where you can go ahead, order what it is you want to pick up and pick it up. Nobody's doing drop-off yet, so materials are not being dropped off. But those plans are in place now, and they can start operating. So I would check with your local municipal library branch. But I know the Central Library downtown is piloting that right now, and I think rather successfully.
All right. I want to thank all of our guests for their time here, because we have questions, and I know every day they're seeing a long list of questions. We got through a lot of questions from the community today, but this is a group of people who have spent a lot of time trying to answer them, and we're going to continue to do this right here at WXXI on our various platforms. They've been here for you tonight, and we'll continue to do that as well. So thanks to all of their guests for their time. Bob Duffy, from representing essentially New York State, the former Lieutenant Governor and the liaison to Governor Cuomo, Monroe County Executive Adam Bello, Dr. Michael Mendoza, Monroe County's Public Health Commissioner, also Willie J. Lightfoot, who is the Vice President of City Council and one of the best barbers in town, and Janine Cachette, who is the proprietor of Avino Restaurant. We'd like to thank you for joining us for tonight's WXXI Live Forum. You can find this broadcast and more information about reopening. You'll find it at WXXInews.org. We also have a section on our website about COVID-19. Just click the coronavirus tab at the top of the page. We want to know what you think about the program. You can call our audience response line at 585-258-0360. Send us an email at forum@WXXI.org. I'm Evan Dawson. From all of us here at WXXI, please stay safe, stay healthy, and good night.
WXXI's Live Forum is made possible with support from the Greater Rochester Health Foundation, working to pursue and invest in solutions that build a healthier region where all people can thrive.
All right.